Good morning, world. Cece here. One of the biggest mistakes people make emotionally is thinking that we have to go from completely broken straight into happiness. And honestly, that's just not how most human beings work. If someone is sitting in grief or heartbreak or betrayal, fear, despair, sometimes we tell them, just be positive. And that usually doesn't help. In fact, sometimes it makes people feel even worse because deep down they know they are just not emotionally there yet. And this is why I think it's emotionally healing and often misunderstood. Most people think the goal is to jump from the very bottom of the emotional scale straight to joy. But we all know that that's not realistic. The real goal is movement, not staying stuck in one emotion for long. You just move up one emotion at a time, maybe two, but just keep climbing. For example, someone going through betrayal or infidelity might first feel grief or devastation or despair. And sometimes anger is actually an improvement. Not because anger is where we want to stay, but because anger has more movement and energy than hopelessness. The problem isn't visiting anger. The problem is building our emotional home there and staying there. Because ideally, we want to spend most of our lives in the upper part of the emotional spectrum. Hope, peace, appreciation, love, optimism, joy. And again, you've heard this before, not because life is perfect, but because those emotional states help expand our lives instead of shrinking them. But getting there usually happens gradually. The goal is to go from despair to anger, and maybe there to frustration, and then determination, and possibly to hope. That's progress. And sometimes healing looks much smaller than people expect. Maybe somebody battling anxiety doesn't, suddenly become joyful overnight. Maybe their first move is into curiosity, Instead of everything is ruined, they move towards maybe this situation won't last forever. Baby steps. It's improvement. Maybe somebody stuck in deep depression doesn't suddenly wake up feeling passion and excitement. Maybe first they get out of bed, take a shower, go outside, answer one text message, take one walk. For some, those small steps matter. Tiny movements matter. And honestly, I think people are way too hard on themselves emotionally sometimes. We shame ourselves for not being instantly healed. But emotions, they just don't work like a flipping light switch. They work more like climbing, one rung at a time. And this is where a lot of people get stuck. Not because they feel lower emotions. Lower emotions are part of being human. That fear, grief, anger, disappointment, worry. We all visit those places sometimes. The problem is when we stop climbing, when frustration becomes identity, when resentment becomes personality, when hopelessness becomes home. And that's where we get trapped. And I think one of the healthiest things we can learn from this is you don't have to take a big leap from despair to bliss. You just need to reach for the next better feeling thought. Again, not perfection, not fake positivity, not pretending life is wonderful when it isn't. It's just the next step upward. Maybe it's, I'm surviving today. Then later, it's, I've survived hard things before. Then maybe things can improve. And eventually, I think I'm finally becoming stronger because of this. That's how emotional growth often happens, gradually. I think society accidentally teaches people that healing should happen instantly. But real healing usually looks much messier than that. Some days you move up the scale. Some days you slide back down a little bit. That's normal. The important part is don't stop climbing. Because over time, the emotions we repeatedly live start shaping, our relationships, our mindset, our health, our future, and our identity. And ideally, we want to spend more and more time living emotionally in hope and gratitude and peace and appreciation and empowerment and love. Not perfectly, just more often. Because the goal isn't emotional perfection. The goal is emotional movement. One emotion higher, one thought better, one step upward at a time. And you know what? That's enough. Just remember, when you fall down that ladder a little bit, please do not beat yourself up. Just go, oh, there we go. We're going to start climbing again. And immediately shift your mind. I think this is a good place to end. So as always, folks, take care of your mind, and the rest has a better chance of falling into place. Until next time, this is Cece, and this is Cece Talks Live, real talk, real life.